At first, I didn't take this time travel movie seriously, but its ending was something I could never have imagined. The story starts with a man who looks very disturbed. He takes a knife from his car and throws it into the river. Then he scatters some papers on the road before jumping into the river himself. The scene fades and the timeline shifts to the year 2021. Here we meet a young man named Apurva. He is still studying, but at the same time, he is searching for a job. He has a girlfriend named Swapna who works in theater. Apurva spends most of his time with her, and since he is struggling financially, Swapna helps him out by covering some of his expenses. One day, a strange man approaches Apurva and starts a conversation. Without introducing himself, he suddenly says, "Tell your mother that her husband is still alive." Apurva is shocked and tries to ask him who he is, but the man refuses to answer. Before walking away, he says, "It's not the right time for you to know." Confused and unsettled, Apurva tells Swapna about the encounter. She dismisses it, suggesting that the man might be a distant relative or that someone could be playing a prank on him. The next day, while Apurva is buying a book, he notices the same man nearby. Later that evening, during play rehearsals, Apurva and Swapna decide to play a game for a chocolate. The challenge is simple. Whoever keeps their eyes open the longest without blinking wins. Apurva manages to win, but just as he accidentally looks up, he sees something shocking. The same mysterious man standing nearby. What's even more unsettling is that standing next to him is another Apurva. For a moment, he is frozen with disbelief. How could this be possible? Was it just his imagination playing tricks on him? Not wanting to sound crazy, he decides to keep this to himself and says nothing about it. The next day, the story shifts to an old man named Gopal Master. He is well known in the local theater scene, helping out with storytelling and music for the plays. He never asks for money in return, just food and water are enough for him. But strangely, no one knows where he came from or anything about his family. He never talks about his past and people rarely question him. Observing him, Swapna comments, "There are people in this world who don't worry about the future at all." Apurva disagrees and laughs it off. "No, he's just a little crazy," he says. But who really is Gopal Master? What secrets does he hold? That mystery will unfold later. That night, while Apurva was in his room, he suddenly felt someone's presence outside. Curious and a little uneasy, he looked out of the window. What he saw made his heart pound. It was himself. The person standing outside looked exactly like him, but something was off. The look-alike seemed nervous, as if he desperately wanted to say something. Before Apurva could react, he rushed to the door and swung it open, but the man had vanished. The next day, the mysterious stranger appeared once again. This time, Apurva didn't let him escape. He followed him, caught up with him, and demanded answers. "Who are you? How do you know my mother? Is my father really alive?" The man remained calm and replied, "I will answer all your questions. Just wait for the right time." Before Apurva could press further, his phone rang. It was Swapna. "I want to show you something," she said. "What is it?" Apurva asked, but she simply replied, "Not now. I'll show you when we meet." Later, Apurva stopped at a crossroads to drink coconut water. A group of priests was asking for donations nearby. As he stood there, something caught his eye in the distance. Swapna was riding a scooty, but what shocked him was that another Apurva was sitting on the back seat. His mind went blank. How was this possible? Was he seeing things? Panicked, he immediately called Swapna, but she didn't answer. Desperate, he asked his friend for his car so he could follow her, but the car wasn't available. Left with no choice, he rushed to the theater, hoping to find her there. But when he arrived, the place was empty. Everyone had the day off. Exhausted, he sat down, waiting for her. At some point, he drifted into sleep and had a terrifying dream that jolted him awake. Something was very, very wrong. Later that night, while talking to his mother, he saw something even more unsettling. Swapna dropping off the other Apurva at his house. Shocked, he ran down from the rooftop, but by the time he reached the street, they had disappeared. The next morning, he received several photos and videos from Swapna. In one of them, there was an audio message from her saying, "This was the best day of my life." Apurva stared at the screen in disbelief. This wasn't just a hallucination, it was real. Determined to get answers, he immediately called Swapna and insisted they meet. She was hesitant since she had other work, but after hearing the panic in his voice, she agreed. When they met, Apurva told her everything, but Swapna just couldn't believe it. "How can you say that? The person I was with yesterday was you. How could it be a look-alike?" she argued. Apurva had no answer. He was just as confused. If that person was only a copy of him, how did he know such personal details about their life? The more he thought about it, the more his mind spiraled into fear. What was happening? The scene then transitions to the year 1996, where a man named Aravu is waiting at a bus stop. He approaches another man, Gopal, to inquire about the bus schedule. Coincidentally, Gopal is headed to the same destination as Aravu. Impressed by Aravu's name, Gopal strikes up a conversation and invites him to join him at a cultural event. As the evening unfolds, the two quickly develop a strong friendship. After the program, Gopal invites a priest, Shastriji to his house for dinner. But Shastriji declines, saying he already has plans. Instead, he suggests that Arivu go in his place. At Gopal's home, his wife and sister, Devaki, warmly welcome Arivu. As soon as Arivu and Devaki see each other, they feel an instant connection. Since it starts raining, Gopal asks Arivu to stay the night. The next morning, Gopal plans to introduce Arivu to a friend who collects old artifacts. Secretly, Gopal is also looking for a good match for his sister, but isn't sure how to bring it up with Arivu. That night, Arivu and Devaki talk for hours, and their love story slowly begins to unfold. Meanwhile, in 2021, Apurva receives a letter from a friend about a job opportunity. The salary offered is $3,000 to $4,000 per month, which seems like a great opportunity. However, Apurva is hesitant. He doesn't have advanced editing skills, and if someone is offering this much money, the work must be quite difficult. Swapna encourages him, saying, "You're worrying for no reason. Just go and check it out. If you get the job, it'll be great for us." Apurva decides to go, but when he asks his friend for a bike, his friend already has plans and instead gives him an Omni van to use. With no other option, Apurva takes the van and heads towards the given location. At the same time, in 1996, Devaki is traveling with Arivu to Gopal's friend's house, as Gopal had to leave early for some other work. As the camera angle shifts, it becomes clear that both Apurva and Arivu are heading to the exact same place, just in different timelines. While driving, Apurva suddenly sees his own look-alike standing in the middle of the road. The other Apurva looks weak and distressed. He stares at him and urgently warns, "Don't go there, it's a trap." Before Apurva can react, the look-alike vanishes. Apurva is left shaken and confused. Did that really just happen, or was it his imagination? He hesitates, but then reminds himself he needs this job. Determined, he continues driving and finally reaches the destination. To his shock, the person who had called him for work is none other than the mysterious man he had been encountering all along. Meanwhile, in 1996, Arivu and Devaki arrived at Kalaya's house and started chatting with him. Kalaya, an old collector, eagerly showed Arivu his collection of ancient coins. During their conversation, Arivu mentioned that he was from Mysore village. Upon hearing this, Kalaya suddenly changed. His expression darkened, and he seemed lost in thought. He pulled out a picture of a young woman and asked, "Have you seen her?" Her name was Revati, his daughter, who had left for Mysore village 5 years ago and never returned. Arivu carefully looked at the photo but shook his head. "No, I've never seen her," he said. However, Kalaya, overwhelmed with memories, began seeing Devaki as his lost daughter. His emotions took over, and he refused to let her go. Sensing danger, Arivu quickly told Devaki, "Let's leave." But Kalaya misunderstood. He thought Arivu was trying to take his daughter away from him and, in a fit of rage, attacked. In the scuffle, Arivu got injured. Somehow, they managed to escape and returned home. When they arrived, Gopal was waiting for them. He had just come back from visiting Kalaya. Gopal explained, "Kalaya has apologized for his behavior. Ever since his daughter disappeared, he's been living in loneliness. That's why he sometimes acts irrationally." Since Arivu was hurt, Gopal insisted he stay the night at their house again. Now let's jump back to 2021 and see what happens next. Apurva arrives at Arivu's house for what he believes is a job related to editing work. Curious and skeptical, he immediately asks, "Who are you?" Arivu calmly replies, "I told you before, I would tell you everything when the right time comes, and now that time has arrived." Before explaining further, Arivu asks, "How is your mother, Yashoda? And how are things between you and Swapna?" Apurva, irritated, snaps, "Stop with these pointless questions. Just get to the point." Arivu then opens a suitcase and finally reveals his identity. He is Arivu from Mysore village. That means the story of Arivu from 1996, which we've been watching, is actually his past. He then pulls out a small bottle of eye drops and tells Apurva, "I need your help with my experiment." Apurva is confused. "I'm sorry, but I came here for an editing job, not some experiment." Arivu, unfazed, responds, "I will pay you $1 million for this job because only you can do it," he explains. "Most people can only keep their eyes open for 2 or 3 minutes without blinking, but you are different. That's why I chose you." Then he reveals something shocking. These eye drops are designed for time travel. One drop of this in your eye, and you can travel anywhere in time. But there's a catch. Once you blink, you return to the present. Apurva is stunned. This sounds impossible. He immediately refuses. "I don't believe any of this. Find someone else." Arivu then plays his final card. "Don't you want to meet your father?" Apurva freezes. He doesn't want to talk about his father. His father left when he was a child, and he never tried to find out why. "What if everything your mother told you about him was a lie?" Arivu continues. "I knew your father well. He wasn't the kind of man to abandon his family. You hate him, but have you ever asked yourself why he really left?" Then Arivu pulls out an old childhood photo of Apurva with his parents. Before Apurva can react, his friend calls calls, asking for the car. Aravu simply says, "Go now, but come back soon. We have a lot of work to do." As Apurva leaves, the truth begins to sink in. From the photo, we now realize that Gopal is Apurva's father. And the man who jumped into the river at the beginning of the movie was Gopal. What really happened? That mystery will be revealed soon. After returning home, Apurva couldn't stop thinking about his father. He finally asked his mother, "Why did Dad leave us?" She sighed and said, "I don't know. One day we found his car abandoned on a bridge. We assumed he jumped into the river, but we never found his body." Apurva hesitated before asking, "Is it possible that he's still alive?" His mother frowned. "Why are you saying such things?" Now desperate for answers, Apurva rushed back to Aravu's house. When he arrived, Aravu was already expecting him. Before anything else, Aravu explained the rules of time travel. Turn on the computer and verify the details. Set the correct time on a special watch. Put a drop of the solution into the eyes. To prove that time travel was real, Aravu took Apurva back to a recent event, the moment when he and Swapna were playing the blinking game. This was also when Apurva had seen his own look-alike. As soon as Apurva saw himself from the past, he panicked and blinked, immediately returning to the present. Aravu scolded him, "Never do that again. If you blink at the wrong time, you can interfere with the past and create problems. Always use time travel discreetly." Despite the warning, Apurva was thrilled. With this power, he could change his life and finally uncover the truth about his father. Determined, he traveled back to the day his father disappeared. But since he didn't know the exact time, he kept jumping back and forth through time, adjusting his arrival. Eventually, he found the right moment. From a distance, he saw his father standing on the bridge, looking deeply troubled. Just as his father was about to jump, Apurva's time limit ran out, and he was pulled back into the present. He gasped in pain. His eyes were burning from the strain. In his struggle, the bottle of eye drops slipped from his hands and shattered. The next morning, when Aravu woke up, only Devaki was at home, busy sewing clothes. She told him that his brother and sister-in-law had gone to the hospital for their regular checkup. With just the two of them in the house, they had a chance to talk and learn more about each other. Meanwhile, Apurva met Aravu and explained everything. He warned Aravu that he had acted too quickly. Time travel is only possible 3 times a day. He also mentioned that it was fortunate the bottle of eye drops broke, as using them too much could have damaged his eyes. He advised Aravu to be more careful and never revisit a place he had already traveled to, as his past self would still be there. Apurva then followed the plan and traveled back to 2001 to save his father from drowning. Though he managed to rescue him, he still didn't understand why his father had chosen to end his life. Aravu reassured him, saying the answers would come in time. He just needed to be patient. Aravu went to meet Kalaya to gather information about his daughter. He still had the same suitcase with him that he carried in the 2021. Determined to find out what happened, he traveled back in time to the moment when Kalaya's daughter Revati disappeared. Secretly following her, he noticed that Revati looked deeply sad. Perhaps she had been betrayed or failed in her studies. Overcome with despair, she walked towards a bridge intending to end her life. But this time, Aravu was there. He intervened just in time, stopping her and slapping her 2 or 3 times to bring her back to her senses. In the process, his ring slipped off and fell to the ground. The moment it did, he vanished. Revati, seeing no one around, believed that a divine force had saved her. The only thing left behind was the ring. Back in his own time, Aravu was furious with himself. It was clear that the ring held great importance to him. That night, during a conversation, Gopal gathered the courage to talk to Aravu about his sister's marriage. Both Aravu and Devaki liked each other, and Aravu had no objections. Rather, he was genuinely happy at the thought of having a life partner like Devaki. The distance between Apurva and Swapna was growing because Apurva was no longer able to spend time with her. One evening, a friend asked him to take care of Gopal Master for a day as he had some urgent work. Apurva brought Gopal to his house but didn't let him stay inside, instead asking him to sleep on the roof. After dinner, they went to bed, but the next morning, when Apurva went to wake him up, he discovered that Gopal had passed away. Everyone was deeply saddened by his sudden death. While reminiscing about Gopal's life in the stories he had written, the name Aravu came up. This piqued Apurva's curiosity, and with his friend's help, he read one of Gopal's stories, one about a time traveler. As he read, Apurva was shocked to realize that the man who had died was actually his own father, Gopal, but something felt incomplete. There was more to the story than he knew. The scene then shifts to the past, when Aravu had agreed to marry Devaki. Their wedding was beautiful, and life seemed to be going well. However, one day, Gopal confided in Aravu, revealing the real reason he and his wife, Yashoda, frequently visited the hospital. He could never become a father. Gopal was prepared to accept this painful truth, but he feared how society would treat Yashoda. To avoid any stigma, he was considering adopting a child. Aravu reassured him, saying that somehow a solution would emerge. Time moved forward. One evening, Gopal noticed Aravu standing outside looking troubled. He had his time travel travel suitcase with him, but it seemed like he didn't want to use it, yet something was forcing him to. Gopal watched as Arivu hesitated, then finally put eye drops in his eyes and disappeared before his eyes. Shocked, Gopal rushed to the spot where Arivu had vanished. His suitcase was still there. Out of curiosity, he opened it, but the strange contents inside made no sense to him. The next morning, Devaki asked her brother about Arivu. Gopal, hiding the truth, told her that Arivu had gone to his village for some work and would return soon. Meanwhile, Devaki had just discovered that she was going to be a mother. She couldn't believe that Arivu had left without telling her. Gopal, already burdened with grief, now had to face this new situation. He had no idea if Arivu would ever return. Determined to find answers, he examined the mysterious suitcase more carefully and gradually realized it was linked to time travel. Wanting to understand more, he read several books on the subject and even asked Shastri Ji about it, but the old man simply laughed it off. In the present, Apurva, still unraveling the truth, called her mother and asked if her father had a sister. Her mother denied it, but when Apurva mentioned the names Arivu and Devaki, her mother became uneasy. Her mother hesitated but finally confessed the truth. Arivu was actually Apurva's real father, and Devaki was her mother. They had hidden this from her to protect her from the pain. Apurva, still shocked, demanded to know where her mother was. Her mother revealed the heartbreaking reality. After Arivu disappeared, Devaki was devastated. Gopal, blaming himself for introducing them to each other, was crushed by guilt. Devaki waited for Arivu for days, hoping for his return, but he never came. Eventually, the time came for her to give birth, but tragically, she didn't survive. Apurva was overwhelmed with sorrow, but also filled with determination. He still had many unanswered questions, and now that he possessed the ability to travel through time, he believed he could fix everything. However, he knew it wouldn't be easy. His first step was to meet Gopal Master in the past through time travel. When he did, he confronted him, saying, "Arivu ruined our lives. I found him, but now you tell me, why did you leave us?" Gopal was both shocked and overjoyed to hear this, realizing that the truth had finally come out. But before he could say anything, his body gave out and he passed away, leaving Apurva with even more questions and an even stronger resolve to uncover the truth. Determined to find answers and fix everything, Apurva went to Arivu's house, but he wasn't there. Realizing he had to stop everything before it even began, he traveled back to the moment when Arivu first met him. But before he could act, another version of Arivu appeared and stopped him. Exhausted from time traveling too much, Apurva returned home, but he had already reached his limit. This was the moment when he saw his own look-alike outside the window. Sitting in the car, he tried to convince himself to stop, but deep down, he knew it was inevitable. His health was worsening due to repeated time jumps, and this time, he accidentally landed in the future, where he saw himself shooting Arivu. The next day, during drama practice, he noticed a boy secretly recording Swapna. Furious, he attacked him, leading to an argument with Swapna that escalated into a fight. Everything in his life was going wrong, and he knew he had to time travel to fix it. But there was a problem. The eye drops were finished, and Arivu was missing. Feeling helpless, he returned home, only to find Arivu already waiting for him. Arivu handed him the eye drops and said, "Now is the right time to tell you everything." But Apurva interrupted. "I already know. You're my real father. I wish I had never learned the truth." Arivu shook his head. "No, you still don't know the full story," he said. "The truth is, I am you, your future self." Apurva was stunned. The realization hit him. He would become Arivu in the future, meet Devaki, and she would give birth to a son who was also himself. Arivu began explaining everything from the start, revealing why all of this had happened. He told Apurva that in a few days, Swapna would leave him, and 6 months later, his mother Yashoda would pass away. Left completely alone, he would focus on making money, but life would feel empty. Struggling with loneliness, in the year 2032, he would travel to Kolkata for work, where he would meet a man named Arvindo. Arvindo gave him the same eye drops that enabled time travel. There were 2 ways to use them. Apply the drops and avoid blinking to travel through time. Use a special ring, which acted as a one-way ticket. The catch was that he could only return to his time if he died in the past or if the ring broke. Seeking love and escape from his loneliness, Arivu traveled back to 1996, where he met Devaki. With her, his life finally felt complete, and they were truly happy together. However, one day he felt sympathy for Kalaya, who was also completely alone. Wanting to help, he used the eye drops to save Kalaya's daughter, but in the process, his ring broke. Despite this setback, he still had 1 year left in that timeline. Once the year was up, he had no choice but to return to his own time. He wanted to go back again, but even after 7 months, he couldn't find another ring. Arvindo tried to help, but eventually stopped responding. Determined to find the ring's creator, he decided to investigate himself. But for that, he needed his time-traveling suitcase. Using the eye drops, he traveled to 2001 to retrieve it. However, when he arrived, Gopal was not happy to see him at all. By then, he had figured out that Arivu was a time traveler and had distanced himself from his family. The next morning, Gopal returned Arivu's suitcase and firmly told him never to come back. Confused and hurt, Arivu asked why and inquired about Devaki. That's when Gopal revealed the heartbreaking truth. Devaki had died. Arivu was devastated, but there was one thing that gave him hope. His son was still alive. He begged Gopal to let him see his son just once, but Gopal refused outright, declaring that from now on, the child was his and Yashoda's. This led to a heated argument, which ended with Gopal stabbing Arivu to get rid of him. By sheer luck, Arivu survived and managed to return to his own time. For years, he searched desperately for another ring. By 2014, exhausted and hopeless, he even considered ending his life. But at the last moment, he realized that suicide wouldn't solve anything. Then a few days later, he discovered a new product that allowed one-way time travel. Though with a restriction, he couldn't go too far into the past. With no other option, he traveled to 2021, hoping to finally break the time loop. Hearing all this, Apurva was overwhelmed with self-loathing. Arivu had told him the truth so that he wouldn't hesitate when the time came to die. Arivu explained, "I've tried countless times to break this loop, but nothing worked. There's only one way left. You have to die. If you die today, then you will never become me in the future, and everything will finally be set right." With that, Arivu pointed a gun at Apurva. Terrified, Apurva's thoughts raced back to Swapna. Desperate, he pleaded, "I'm ready to die, but give me just one more day." He wanted to spend one last happy moment with Swapna before it all ended. Arivu, remembering his own pain, agreed. He traveled back a few days in time, bringing Apurva to the very moment he had once witnessed himself going to the hut with Swapna. This time, however, he was fully present, embracing every second. As they talked, Swapna suddenly reminded him of something. "I told you on the phone that I wanted to show you something. This ring." She explained that her mother had once been in deep sorrow and was about to end her life when some mysterious force saved her. That was when she found this ring. Now that she and Apurva were about to get married, she wanted him to see it. Apurva froze. The revelation hit him like a shockwave. Revati, the woman he had saved from suicide in the past, was none other than Swapna's mother. That meant if Apurva died and never became Arivu, then Arivu would never go back in time to save Revati. And if Revati died, then Swapna would never be born. Everything he thought he understood had suddenly changed. The plan to break the loop had backfired. Now, even if he wanted to escape his fate, he had to become Arivu, because without him, Swapna would cease to exist. Apurva was torn between what to do. He had decided to return to his time and accept his fate, but thinking about Swapna, he turned the gun on Arivu instead. Arivu remained calm and told him, "Killing me won't change anything. The only way to break this time loop is for you to die." But Apurva refused. "I don't want to change anything. This is all your fault. You ruined my life, so you should die instead." Consumed by anger, he shot Arivu, but the guilt overwhelmed him. He prayed for forgiveness, realizing how many lives had been destroyed because of him. Feeling there was no other way out, he turned the gun on himself and pulled the trigger. The moment he did, both he and Arivu disappeared. We then see a world where neither Arivu nor Swapna exist. Arivu never arrived at the bus stand that day, meaning Gopal never met him. In the drama company, a different girl replaced Swapna. In the final scene, Apurva and Swapna are seen together in a strange, empty world, just the two of them, alone. And that's where this tragic story ends. To summarize, Apurva learned about time travel, lost his girlfriend, and killed the man who told him the truth. His parents died, and loneliness consumed him. When he got another chance to time travel, he went back, married Devaki, and unknowingly created a time loop where he became his own father. Arivu had warned him that killing him would change nothing, only add to his suffering. Realizing this too late, Apurva took his own life, finally breaking the cycle. As for Gopal, his guilt drove him to attempt suicide after killing Arivu. However, Apurva unknowingly saved him in the past, forcing him to live with the unbearable truth. Unable to stay with his family, he left and later became a teacher. Revati's reasons for wanting to die were never fully explained. She had a letter that upset her. Maybe it was heartbreak, maybe academic failure. Whatever the reason, Arivu had once saved her. But in this altered timeline, with no one to stop her, she was lost. This movie explores a complex time travel paradox filled with loops and unanswered questions. Like many films in this genre, it has its own inconsistencies. If you try to figure out where it all started, you'll find yourself trapped in the very paradox it presents. If you have any questions or think I missed something, feel free to comment or text me.